welcome to another lawnfawn video. Today we are introducing our new die set Stitched Simple Wavy Borders. We're also introducing our new interactive die set Slide On Over Waves. So Slide On Over Waves is the latest in our series of Slide On Over dies. So these dies help you create interactive slider cards, and the one on the right there is our original Slide On Over. We also have some other Slide On Over sets. So we have the circles and the semicircles, and now we have the waves. So I love that there's so many different styles of slider cards that you can create now. Here we have the Stitched Simple Wavy Borders, and these are so fun because they make for really cool ocean waves, but they're also really cool hills or decorative accents on cards. And so here you can see the three different styles of hills we have, from least bumpy to most bumpy, and I really love the look of them layered. These are the Slide On Over waves, and we have a little less bumpy and then bumpier depending on how rough your waters are going to be, right? Or it could even be a bike bumping down a hill, which would be really cute. And what's great about these is they coordinate with these simple stitched wavy borders. So you can see that larger one coordinates with the larger wave, and then the medium coordinates with the medium wave. And so I love that you can mix and match these. It turns out so cool. So here's a little look at how both of these Slide On Over waves function. So here's the bigger one, which is more kind of like big swells of waves. And then right here is the really bumpy one. So this is the rough waters one. And like I said, I think it'd be really cute with the bicycle on this because it would be bumping down the road. There'd be so many fun, cool ideas. So now it's time to create a card, and here I have some white cardstock we're going to cut with the new wavy borders and also with that stitched wave border too. And I love mixing and matching these two to have two different styles of ocean waves going along. So we're going to be using some Distress Oxide inks, and on that wave border there we're going to be using Salty Ocean, seemed appropriate, right, for the ocean, and then Blueprint Sketch. And so we're going to cover the entire thing with the Salty Ocean Distress ink. And once we've used that blender brush there to cover the entire piece, we're going to add a little bit of darkness at the bottom by layering on some of that Blueprint Sketch, and that's going to give this really nice gradient feel to it. Once we have all of the ink covered on that die cut, we're then going to take a spray bottle filled with water and spray that water onto there. The water is going to react with the ink. We're going to take a paper towel and pick up any of the excess of that water. And how cool does that look? I never get over how cool this is. It looks like waves and bubbles. It's just so cool. It really makes it look like the waves are moving around in the ocean. Now we're going to take the piece that we cut with the Stitched Simple Wavy border, and we're going to start with the Blueprint Sketch at the bottom this time and have the Salty Ocean just at the top. Now I wanted this one to be even darker, so we're going to take out Chipped Sapphire, which is an even darker blue ink, and darken up that bottom piece. You see, I wanted there to be a nice contrast between the two of them. So now we've got the three different colors of Distress ink, and I'm just going back through each color, making sure that there's a nice blend between all three. And then we'll repeat the same thing again, where we're going to spray it with a water bottle, and then we could pick up any of that excess ink. And I'm going to spray it one more time just to give it more texture, and it's going to look really awesome. So now we've got to take these and put these aside to dry before we do any more die cutting on them. So now we're going to work on the background of the card, and here we have the snowy backdrop, and we're going to die cut that from some blue Jay cardstock, and this is going to be a really cool kind of starry night sky. Going to use a glue tube to add a bunch of liquid glue to the back, and then we're going to layer it onto a standard size card base at 5.5 by 4.25 inches. I want to put the lighthouse from Smooth Sailing on this card, so we need a hill for the lighthouse to stand on. So I'm going to take a stitched hillside border there and die cut some kraft cardstock with that, and that's going to give us this nice little rounded hill. Now, because our other pieces have some texture, I thought it would be nice to add some texture to this cardstock piece as well. So we're going to take a bunch of brown Distress inks and just smear them onto a craft mat here. I'm also going to take some Picket Fence Distress ink, which is a white colored Distress ink, and smear that on the mat. Then we'll take a spray bottle and just spray some water there in the corner. We're going to take a paintbrush and mix that water in with these inks, creating a paint that we're going to splatter onto this hill to make it look like sand. So you see I've got my water there, the paintbrush, then we're going to dip it into that lightest color and then tap the edge of the paintbrush, and that's going to splatter paint all over this, creating this really cool sand texture. So there we're going to repeat the same thing, picking up some of the different colors of brown ink and then tapping the paintbrush. And you see I'm just kind of mixing them all together. Then we'll add a little more water to clean up the brush, and now we're going to work with the white. And by adding those little white speckles, it really gives that contrast and makes it look like sand. So now that we've got all those white speckles on there, this piece is ready to go, and we're going to set it aside to dry and start working on the slider mechanism. So there you can see that slide on over wave die is lining up perfectly with that simple wavy border. So we're going to line up those bumps, hold it in place with some low tack tape, and run it through the die cut machine. Next, I'm going to die cut the stitched rectangle frame there out of that same kraft cardstock that we did for the hill. And we're going to layer that onto that wave that we created earlier. And that's going to be a guide so that we can do some stamping. So we're going to be heat embossing this. So I asked my friend Megan, I'm recreating her card today, so thank you so much, Megan. Her heat embossing is always like on point, like incredible. I'm like, how did you do this, Megan? So she gave me the best tips. So the first tip is to make sure you really cover your piece with the powder tool. So this is going to help make sure that the heat embossing powder only sticks to your stamping. So we're going to cover that whole thing. Then we're going to take our embossing ink and cover the whole stamp. Now here is what's really different from what I normally do. I normally take my MISTI and I press down on it. Well, what Megan does is she takes her MISTI and she taps on it really, really lightly. So we're just tapping all around. You'll see I'm going to lift it up and not all of the ink transferred. So I'm going to go back through and tap just a little bit harder. That's what I like, is you can just keep tapping it until it looks perfect. And it looks really, really good now. Then her other tip was to take that white embossing powder and really let it just fall off the card with just a light tap. So I'm going to take some more and just layer it right on top and let it just fall off the card. Then I'm going to take a dry paintbrush and just brush off any excess of that powder that might be there. What I used to do was really flick the back of the cardstock to make sure the powder would get all off, but that was actually knocking off some of the powder on my stamping. So this is just taking off that excess. And then for the fourth or fifth, or I don't even know how many awesome tips from Megan, I'm going to start by heating it from the back. I usually start from heating it from the front, but she heats it from the back first and then moves to the front to just finish the whole thing off. And look how great that detail is. Oh my goodness, it's the best heat embossing I've ever done. I need to practice a little bit more, but I'm really excited to use this method from here on out. So I added a little liquid glue to the bottom of that wave, and then we're going to layer that into the frame, and then from there layer the sandy hill behind that our lighthouse is going to stand on. Then we'll add a little more tape runner to the back of the whole thing, and we're going to layer that on top of the slider mechanism that we created earlier. So we're going to take the whole thing and layer that right on top. Now it's time to start creating the rest of the slider. And if you've never made a slider before, I definitely recommend that you check out our intro to slide on over video, and I'm going to link that in the description below. But one of the tricks to sliders is doubling up your foam here. So you can see I'm folding my foam in half and sticking it to itself to have a double layer. Then we can start to layer that double thick foam all around that slider piece. Now we're going to be using a penny for the back of the slider. You could also use a washer or something kind of heavy and metal like that. You should be able to find it at the hardware store, or use a penny. And so I'm going to place that penny right there in placement so I know where to not put my foam tape. So I want to make sure that that foam tape does not get in the way of that penny sliding through the track. So I've got that penny as a guide, and we're just going to keep adding pieces. Now for the very top of this wave, you'll see I've trimmed a very thin piece of foam, and I'm actually going to kind of bend the foam to go along the waves of that die. And so that's going to give a little stability of the top, but that penny is still going to be able to move freely. Now for the penny, we're taking that same doubled up foam and trimming a thin piece and sticking it to the penny. Now this is one of the great slider tricks, and that's taking that same powder tool, and we're going to run it all along the sides of this foam tape to remove any excess stickiness so that that piece can really slide in the track. And you could use some baby powder and a paintbrush for this as well. I just like the powder tool because it's less messy. So there I've got my penny and my track, and now I've taken out a bunch of stamped and colored images. So I have my smooth sailing stamp set, Mermaid for You, and Butterfly Kisses. We're using Butterfly Kisses for the seagrass, Mermaid for You for the rock, and all of the other images are from Smooth Sailing. And so we're taking the cute little critters from Smooth Sailing and adding them into the boat with some foam tape. And how adorable is that? Oh my goodness. So now we're going to put the penny behind the track. We're going to peel up that liner paper, and we're going to stick our cute little critter boat to that penny. And so that's how our boat is going to be moving along in its rough waters. To finish up the back of the card, we're going to add some foam tape to the frame part of it. So I'm just trimming down some skinny pieces of that same doubled up foam, and we're just going to layer that all around the top. Then we can start to peel up that liner paper and attach it to that cool snowy starry backdrop that we had earlier. So we're going to take the whole thing, peel up that liner paper, and stick it to the sky. Now it's time to add the rest of the decorations to this card. So we're going to add that lighthouse behind the rock. And then we can layer that whole thing onto the card. And you see, I'm just going to trim off any of the excess of that rock because I want it to look like it's coming out from behind the frame. Then we're going to layer some clouds in the sky, and these are a mixture of clouds from Butterfly Kisses and Smooth Sailing, and I love mixing and matching them because they're all different sizes. So we're going to layer some little tiny clouds and some bigger clouds. And now this was the coolest idea Megan had. So this is our new sunray backdrop. And so we die cut the backdrop, but we're going to take one of the sun rays out and use that for the lighthouse. So we're going to take some sunflower ink and a blender brush and just blend that onto one edge of this so it's going to look like it has a nice gradient to it. And then we can add some tape runner to the back and layer it behind the lighthouse. And how cool is that? So every time you cut your sunray backdrops, make sure to save those rays because they're perfect for these lighthouse cards. So now we're taking those little grass pieces from Butterfly Kisses, but we colored them more to look like seagrass. And so we're going to layer that all around that hill. And then now we're going to keep adding finishing touches. So we're going to add some more clouds in the sky and also some cute little yellow stars that are from the Smooth Sailing stamp set all around the sky. We're also going to add some fun little red hearts too. And I really like the red hearts because they kind of match the boat and the lighthouse, and it brings that red color down into the ocean and also there into that sandy hill. Now remember how the slide on over wave had that little inside wave piece? Well, I made sure to save that piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some tape runner to the back of it and then insert it in that wavy opening. And that's going to give it a really nice finished look so that the slider looks seamless and really blends into the card. So we're just going to tuck that right behind the penny and the boat that's attached to the penny, and then just attach it right down, lining up with those waves. And you can see once we add that in there how it really just makes that whole wavy mechanism blend right into the card. Now to finish up the when the waters get rough sentiment from the outside, we're going to stamp I'm here for you on the inside. We're also going to add another cute little red heart so that it matches the outside of the card. I love bringing things from the outside to the inside of the card. And now this interactive card is all done, and how cute is that boat just sliding in those waves? I am so in love with this card. It was so much fun to make, so thank you so much, Megan. And I can't wait to see what amazing sliders and cool wavy cards you guys create, so make sure to share them with us. Thank you so much for watching today, and have an absolutely amazing day. Bye!